El suicidio destruye. El suicidio quema. El suicidio causa dolor. El suicidio no tiene regreso. El suicidio no resuelve nada. El suicidio, la decisión incorrecta. A lot of people is ignoring this, but sometimes happen like news on the TV. You just watching TV, but sometimes you never think that you're gonna be part of the stories on the TV.
Details in a deadly house explosion in McKinney. Investigators returned to the scene to look for more evidence.
Exclusive video as we join you just into CBS 11 News within the last few minutes, showing the moment immediately after a house blew up in McKinney late this afternoon. This happened on Lewis Canyon Lane just after 4 o'clock. Inside the house, a man who apparently intended to die today and did.
John and I met, and it was about 2 years. They didn't know about his depression once I met them. They didn't know about the suicidal thoughts that he was having. They thought he was doing good because he recently graduated from the U of U, so they were expecting him to be good, you know.
Suicide affects so many people. That's one thing that the person committing suicide or attempting suicide does not realize, how many people care. In fact, the majority of them think, if I go, nobody will notice or nobody will care.
He did mention it when we first met.
People with high emotional disorders have a tendency to commit suicides.
But I didn't know him very well, so I wasn't sure what he was talking about. But then after we started to date and see each other more, he kept saying it, you know, that he tried to actually kill himself before, and that he put the gun in his head, but he wasn't able to do it. And I told him, you know, like, I told him that he should have not be thinking about that.
Maybe have tried and tried to feel better, but they can't. They're in despair, usually. The despair comes from not finding anything that is good enough, that makes them feel good, that takes them out of that feeling so hurt.
We set like a little date on Thursday, so I told him that I was gonna message him on Thursday and see if we can go out. And I messaged him and he didn't reply that day. And then Thursday he didn't reply and he didn't answer my calls because we were supposed to go out.
Or maybe they had some ideas of doing it, but they wasn't like, I'm going to do it this day and at this time.
I had 9 messages from him, just calling my name, Ana, 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 Ana. Friday came and he didn't reply, so I just had this feeling that I had to go see him to just make sure he was okay.
Cuando miré mi teléfono y tenía varias llamadas y mensajes de ella, regreso la llamada y me dice parte de lo que sucede, que no le contesta.
The last message was at 7:45. I went to see him, and I don't know, like I had a feeling that I couldn't go alone, so I called my friend Alex to go with me, and I found my friend dead.
Ver que una persona que aparentemente lo tiene todo, decide terminar con eso que tiene, con una vida.
It's very hard to determine cause and effects.
Si hubiéramos llegado antes, si yo hubiera contestado el teléfono antes, hubiéramos llegado mucho tiempo antes de que esto sucediera.
I was the last person he messaged before he killed himself, and his family telling me, so you were the last one he messaged. Like, I don't know, I just felt very, very guilty, you know?
Don't feel guilty. You cannot be responsible for another person's actions.
Why did he message me at the end? Like, why me, you know? I don't know, I was very sad that he was gone. Very sad.
Tal vez mi carácter, mi forma de reaccionar ante esta situación fue lo que a ella la hizo soportar un poco más.
And they usually do something quite drastic, like shooting or hanging. They're not the ones that are going to take pills, for example. The most common type is ingesting pills. That's the most common suicide attempt. Sometimes it's the ingestion of medication or with alcohol.
The bad choice I did is that I combined my medications with some alcohol, and the alcohol really increased those thoughts of suicide.
And so that's one reason. Usually we see that with depressed patients.
And like I felt I wasn't worth anything.
They contemplate ending their lives because then life is not worth it.
That's what I thought. Like I would go to work without even caring, like nothing, I don't know, for some reason nothing mattered. Like it was like that. And it was just blah, you know? Like I didn't care about my daughter. I didn't care how I look.
And so that's one reason. Usually we see that with depressed patients or people who are very, very depressed. They get to this point, we call it anhedonia, is where they just have no interest for anything anymore.
Careless about feelings. So that's when I actually started to think about suicide.
Yo tenía que estar junto a ella en un momento así.
I will tell my mom, like, I don't feel good, like I feel like depressed, you know? And like she wouldn't like really listen to me. She would be like, oh, that's all in your head.
So understanding is very, very important.
When I try to suicide, my dad will go visit me.
What I would say to a person that is contemplating suicide is suicide really doesn't fix anything.
But on the other hand, my mom didn't want to talk to me. She was very upset. She was like, you're crazy, you know, why did you do it? So I didn't have my mother's support or my stepdad's support when that happened. I needed a different kind of support from her, and I didn't get it.
¿Qué puedo hacer para apoyar a mi amiga en esto?
My dad was there. My friend Alex was there for me, but my mom, she still doesn't understand what I tried to do.
Fue difícil porque para mí es como una hermana. Saber que ella estaba sin el apoyo que yo esperé que fuera a tener.
A lot of people is ignoring this, but sometimes happen like news on the TV. You just watching TV, but sometimes you never think that you're going to be part of the stories on the TV. And this happened to me about a few years ago. I remember that my daughter had a lot of problem with her husband, and the situation between them was really bad.
It's not only depressed people, but people with bipolar disorder, people with schizophrenia, people with high emotional disorders.
The guy was really very rude with her. I remember they lived here in Utah and Tuela, but they had problems. And sometime my daughter drove here with the kid, and she said to be just for a weekend. And then, Sunday afternoon, her husband came to take her back to home like nothing happened. My daughter never said anything to us. She came a few times and we started, putting attention on that. And then we found that they had problems. And when we found that they had problems, he tried to move to the other state. They moved to Texas and lived in Texas for 6 years, I think. She drove here 3 times because she is still having problems. The last time, she said, well, this is enough.
So that's one of the reasons, one of the causes of suicide.
That happened the last time when he saw that everything was, ready for the divorce. He decided to kill to everybody, killing himself, my daughter, and 5 kids.
It's a form of punishment that comes from that anger and the desperation of not having what they want.
She was serious, really. She talked with the lawyers and everything to try to get the divorce, and he don't want that. And because he don't want that, he tried to kill my daughter and 5 kids. The good thing was that, he was putting on Facebook a lot of notes about his life.
Nearly an hour and a half before his wife's 911.
The desperation that now I'm doing everything you wanted me to do and you're still not, and you don't want me back, and so grabbing a gun and committing suicide in front of her.
4 days for Mia to retract the divorce. Please pray for us.
So when they get to that state, they contemplate ending their lives because then life is not worth it.
You gotta see what will happen this day. Everything gonna change, everything, because I don't wanna get divorced with my wife.
Facebook page makes several references to marital strife.
And because he put a note on Facebook, I was wondering about that.
Quote, this could all be
and
over
I
soon.
called my wife and said, call my son and tell him to call the Texas police because I think something will happen. I called one more time because I called in the morning to my wife and she didn't call my son. And noon, I called her back and I asked her, did you call my son to Texas police? Why? Tell him to call over there and call the police and check over there what's going on. And my son called and he was ready to explode the house.
And there are other people that actually want to give, there's a combination of that despair and the anger. And so in a way they're saying, live with this. So I have the despair, I have that no wanting to continue, and I couple that with the anger, so then I just take perfect concussion to say, I'm going to do this in front of you, or these are the people that usually are making a statement with their suicide.
Everything was ready. Just waiting for my daughter with his kid to explode the house. Because she went to the school to picking up. And
So when we combine those two, anger with impulsiveness, some people commit suicide out of an impulsive anger.
but when my daughter get home, the police was already over there. And when she tried to come into the house, they said, no, you stay here, outside. Don't go inside.
Officers contacted the 35-year-old and convinced him to let his family and the two clergymen go.
5 minutes after that, they hear a shot, like a gun shot, and the house explodes.
It was kind of brewing, and then when the right time came and the anger stroke and the impulsivity came, and they usually do something quite drastic.
That was on the news. That was on the news, and you just watching TV, but sometimes you never think that you're going to be part of the stories on the TV.
Seen to look for more evidence and now believe a gas was used to set off these blasts.
Had a propane gas tank inside the house. According to McKinney police, investigators are now looking into the possibility that fired a weapon, shot himself before the explosions.
They found a suspicious device in his car and detonated it. And back here alive, that was the first device that they detonated. They did that roughly around 7:40 this evening. And then a second device was detonated around 9:15. Once that second device was detonated, they decided to do one more sweep of the road, and they finally let residents back inside their homes about 10 minutes to 10. So the street has been cleared, but you can see there's still a scene behind us. Reporting live in McKinney, Jay Gormley, CBS 11 News.
But my message would be there are solutions, there are ways to treat depression, there are ways to treat bipolar disorder, there are ways to treat schizophrenia. So to explore solutions instead of trying to stop their lives.
I think it's very important for a parent to listen, not to talk.
Someone who's thinking about suicide probably needs to hear how much we care about them as human beings, as relatives, as friends. Usually the person that is contemplating suicide feels very lonely, very much like nobody understands me.
Me ha hecho valorar un poco más a mi familia, a mis amigos.
The idea here is to not purposely hurt anybody. But by the very fact that we're alive, by the very fact that we set limits, we're hurting others.
Si esas personas también tienen el pensamiento de suicidio, que lo piensen muchas veces.
Usually the person that is contemplating suicide feels very lonely, very much like nobody understands me. So understanding is very, very important.
Don't sink into that hole of trying to kill yourself. There is help out there. There's a website. You can go actually to the hospital and they can help you. I mean, there's options out there.
What I would say to a person that is contemplating suicide is suicide really doesn't fix anything.
If you have suicidal thoughts, there is help out there. There is people that actually listen to you. Don't don't go through it by yourself.
Well, there are groups for family members that are family members of people who committed suicide. There are support groups for that, and they can be found on the internet or by calling 211. There's also a crisis line that Valley Mental Health has.
I want to say thank you to my dad because he was there. Yeah. He will visit me at the hospital, so yeah. My friend Alex, because he was there for me too. Just us two, you know. The hospital, because they understood what I was talking about, of course. And they give me tools for that. You know, it's just whatever you decide to do, you know.
The majority of them think if I go, nobody will notice or nobody will care. And it's completely opposite. I have been in many situations where I have been involved with the family members and the people that knew the person that committed suicide, and it's devastating. People who are contemplating or who have a particular emotional pain can call the crisis line that can also be found at 211. And then there's 1-800 suicide prevention line that is a national line, and that's the only one that I know in Spanish. The other ones are only in English.